All right, now we're gonna make chocolate mousse. Mousse is the most beautiful thing in the world. Mousse means to foam or to froth in French. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna put together a whipped cream, a French meringue, chocolate and butter, and fold it all in together. The folding is like the most important part of it, because we're trying to keep that air, because that's what mousse is all about. What we first want to do is, part of the ingredients is chocolate and butter. And so I've set up a bain-marie, which you saw as one of your tools. And so what we're going to do is we're going to melt the chocolate and butter together. Butter loves chocolate because chocolate has cocoa butter in it. And so because of that, they melt together beautifully. And that's really the foundation of this mousse. This mousse doesn't need a stabilizer or anything else with it, because the chocolate itself is going to set up so well that it really is going to incorporate and pull itself together just because of the chocolate itself. And it's a beautiful chocolate. So what we're going to do is I have the bain-marie going. What I really want to do is watch the water with the chocolate, because water and chocolate really don't mix very well together. It has a tendency to seize up. So once my bain-marie gets a nice kind of rolling boil, I'm going to turn it way, way down. Then I'm going to set my chocolate on top of it, and I'm going to watch it. And I could just turn the pot off entirely if I wanted to, the heat, because that way I really have a lot of heat in that water, and it's going to be enough to melt this small quantity of chocolate and butter. It's really important to get the chocolate and butter melted, and then what we're going to do is we're going to go on to the next stages of making our French meringue and whipping our whipped cream. So I'm going to put this on, and as soon as it's melted, we'll come back. All right, we're going to continue to put chocolate mousse together. What I need to be able to do is whip my heavy cream to nice medium peaks, and then I'm going to make a French meringue. The egg yolks are the last thing I'm going to do. I have my chocolate and my butter melted. Really, I turned the heat off pretty soon into it when I saw too much like steam coming up the sides. I don't want that. I don't want any water near the chocolate, and it's warm enough that it's going to melt everything together for me anyways. And so it just, because you can burn chocolate pretty easily. So I really want to take my time with it, and I'm not in any hurry or any rush to melt it. You can do it in a microwave safe container, but low and slow, and stirring it pretty much every 30 seconds. The butter's going to melt quick, and then you're going to feel the bottom of that bottom is real warm. You're going to take it off and just let the chocolate melt on its own. Keep the chocolate happy. That's the most important thing. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to whip my heavy cream, and I'm going to do it by hand in case you don't have a mixer at home. You can use a stand mixer. You can use a hand mixer. You can use your kids. You can use anybody's around, but I'm going to come in here and just start whipping my whipped cream. I used to make my students do it by hand all the time, and nobody's really happy about it. But whipped cream originally whipped by hand, that's how we did it. So I'm going to stop here, and then I'm going to get it whipped up, and then I'm going to start again and show you how we're going to put the French meringue together as well. So hang in there. All right, so I'm back. So I whipped my whipped cream, and you can see I got a nice peak going. It took me a little while, but it's good for me, right? Don't need to go to the gym. So I got a nice peak on it. As you can see, I'm going to bring this up. You can see, oh, it's beautiful. If you only have one bowl you're able to do it in, you can grab a container, take it out, set it in here. I do the whipped cream first because then, depending on if I only have one bowl, I want to make sure I clean it really well and then go back in and make my French meringue, because the French meringue tends to drop a little bit quicker. So I actually have another bowl, so I don't have to get another one. So there's this guy. So you can see I whipped a real pretty whipped cream, one of the beautiful components of our mousse. Next thing we're going to do, let me get this out of the way, is make your French meringue. If you don't have a mixer, all this can be done in a mixer, but this is also me doing it by hand, because if you're at home doing it and you don't have a stand mixer, it'd be nice to have one of the hand ones too. The hand ones work really well too. I lived with one of those for many years. But I'm going to make my French meringue by hand. Like I said, I used to make my students do it all the time. So I have my egg whites, which are pasteurized. Super important for a mousse. I don't want to put any raw product. You can buy these in the grocery store. And I have a whip. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start whipping these up. And like I showed you last time, I'm going to get them to at least 4 times their original size. I want them to be big and beautiful and light and fluffy because I don't want to add the sugar too soon, because I want my meringue to really hold itself up. If I add that sugar too soon, it's going to lay itself down and really drop the meringue. So I'm going to start whipping, and I get it to a point, I'm not going to bore you with it, get it to a point where I want to start adding my sugar, but I'm not adding my sugar yet. So I do have my sugar component. So I'm going to stop and get myself back to where we want to be able to continue. Then I'm going to show you how we add our sugar, and then we're going to put everything together. Hang on. All right. Okay, I got it a little higher. It took me a little bit of time. I'm old. So I'm whipping it up, and I have some height to it, and you can see, I'm going to let you see it in the mixer, in the bowl, not the mixer. You can do it in a mixer, that was what I'm going to say. And I'm going to start sprinkling my sugar in slowly. I put a towel underneath myself to kind of hold it so that I don't lose the bowl, which I want to do by myself. So I'm going to slowly sprinkle it over, just like I've showed you on a mixer, and incorporate my sugar. I'm going to stop every once in a while, give it a good whip, come in here, get all my edges, and continue to add my sugar all the way along. I'm going to get my sugar all the way incorporated, very little at a time, whipping and incorporating and getting all that sugar in, adding air. I want to go to about a medium peak, so as I do it, I'm just going to continue to add my sugar until all my sugar is incorporated. And you don't want to add it too soon, like I've told you all along. You want to make sure you add it nice and slowly. You can see I'm starting to get kind of glossy and pretty, and that gloss is that sugar that's being incorporated, kind of laying over those air bubbles and making a beautiful French meringue. French meringue, Swiss meringue, Italian meringue, all three. This being the French, which is thought of as the common meringue. So I'm going to finish out my sugar, so I don't continue to do it in front of you the whole time, and then we're going to put it all together. Hang in there. All right, here we go. I whipped my whites, and it took a little while for me, but I'm by myself too. So I did get them to about a medium peak, and they're shiny and glossy, and I think they're just right. I think they're just at the perfect kind of peak that I'm looking for. And like I talked about, French being the common meringue, sugar added to egg whites. The Swiss meringue, we warmed our egg whites and sugar together. Italian, we brought our sugar syrup up to a softball stage, then we incorporated it down the side. 3 different meringues, all part of usually typically a more advanced technique that we're going to do in baking and pastry. So they're so important to know, and I know I drive you guys crazy about them all the time, but knowing your meringues is just, to me, foundation of baking and pastry. So I have, let's go back over for chocolate mousse. I have my chocolate and butter melted on the stove, and I'm going to pull it off. I'm going to make sure the bottom of my bowl is super dry. I don't want any of that condensation or water. That would be really important to me. You can see I had a pretty good steam going on it. So I want to make sure I don't have that as part of the bowl or gets incorporated at any point to my mousse. I also want to make sure my chocolate and butter aren't too hot. What's going to happen is you're going to put a product, either your French meringue or your whipped cream in it, and it's going to melt it. And so the best way for me to tell is just by sticking my finger in it. And to be honest with you, I think I'm too hot. So I'm going to stop the video right now, and I'm going to give myself a little time to cool down. How I'm telling that for myself is that if I feel that it's like super warm, and that if I were to put a butter in it, it would melt pretty quickly, to me that means it's too warm. And whipped cream itself, you know, we've whipped it up, but we don't want it to melt on us as well. And we know we have egg yolks going in. So what I'm going to do is just stop right here, and then we're going to come back and reincorporate it. And it's going to sit out, I bet I give it 10 minutes to make sure that I'm at the right temperature. I'm going to come back and double check it. And then let me just kind of go over real quick what we've done. We have whipped our whipped cream to a medium peak, and so that's all set to go. So there's stages of us. We've melted our butter and our chocolate together, and it's set to go. I have my pasteurized egg yolks. If you don't have pasteurized egg yolks at home and you're trying to do this at home for friends and family, leave them out. Classic mousse typically has an egg yolk in it. Pasteurized are a little more difficult to find in a retail setting. I've also made my French meringue. It's set to go. It's all whipped, and so everybody, really what we're going to do is come back in and incorporate it all together, fold in all those light fluffy ingredients, and create this beautiful dark chocolate mousse. So bear with me, I'm going to let this cool down, which if you need to, I want you to realize that can be an issue, and we don't want to have that happen to you at home, so hang in there. All right, I'm back to put our chocolate mousse together. I've felt my chocolate, and it's pretty spot on. It's cooled itself down, and I've done that by just showing it some love, letting it cool itself down on the side of the bowl, and it makes it I don't want it too cold, because then you get a chocolate chip mousse when the egg yolks hit it. Not that that's a bad thing. I have my pasteurized egg yolks, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to incorporate these as well. They add richness and flavor and texture and yumminess all the way over. So I'm just going to stir them in, and they're going to set up. The chocolate's going to like them, the butter's going to like them very much, and they're going to incorporate really well. And so what you're going to see is I'm going to make sure I come in and get it all inside. You can see I'm really, let me lift this up. Oh, there we go, there we are. The yolks are incorporated. I know I can tell the temperature is spot on. It's not going to bother the yolks, and it thickens it up. You can see just the egg yolks themselves add a richness to the mousse as we go. What we're going to do next is we're going to fold in our French meringue. So it goes chocolate and butter. We're going to do add our egg yolks. We have a French meringue that's ready to go in, and we're going to start folding it in. Like a souffle, I'm going to kind of get some of the ingredients in pretty quickly, and then I'm going to fold it in and end with my whipped cream. What happens is I finish with my whipped cream pretty typically, because that way what happens is the whipped cream will continue to whip, and I don't really want it any stiffer. So here I have some of my French meringue, and I'm just going to do half and get it in here. Whip it pretty good. Right, and so I'm going to come in here and fold it and get my chocolate lightened and cooled down. And to fold means to come up from that middle, right? So I'm going to come up from the middle each time and turn my bowl and fold and really take my time. I really want to get those whites in to lighten it. Get this guy out of the way here so you can kind of see what I'm doing. I'm going to scrape it in. You can see it really is very happy. It's starting to really lighten that chocolate, that butter, and all incorporate really well. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the rest of my whites in there. Let me get that. Oh, it's such a pretty meringue. Whoa, I did such a good job. All right, so I'm going to get the rest of my whites in. You can see this is a good size bowl for this. Okay, so I'm going to come in here and I'm going to fold again. So I started with half of my whites, my French meringue, and I'm going to get the rest of my whites going. I'm going to really dig that chocolate up from the bottom to fold. The folding is really what we're allowing to do, is keep all the air we've created in all the product. Keep your edges nice and clean. You can see the chocolate itself is pulling itself together very nicely. I have my whipped cream, which I'm going to add at this time right now. So I'm going to get everybody incorporated. I don't want to whip it or whisk it, I want to fold it. And what I want to do is bring it together to make a very dark, rich chocolate mousse, and I'm going to do that by just folding. Let me get these guys out of the way. And here I go. So I have my whipped cream. I don't want any slip and streak, and slip and streak means I don't want any white. I want this rich, dark chocolate mousse. I'm going to come in here and start incorporating that whipped cream. That's why that whipped cream at a medium, soft to medium peak really goes in very well. And you can see I still have some kind of variegation in it. I don't know if that's a word, I might have just made that up, but it sounded really good. Variegated. Yeah. The chocolate mousse is so good. It's beautiful in a champagne glass with fresh berries. I love it inside an eclair. We used to serve it at the hotels as a beautiful little parfait. This actually is a beautiful filling. This formula right here, beautiful filling. I've iced cakes with it. Add a little mocha, little something yummy to it to boost the flavor up even more, which I don't know if you really need to or not, but because it really comes out great. You can see all my white is kind of disappearing. What I'm looking for is this beautiful, rich, dark chocolate mousse, and you can see that's what I came up with right there. And all my products incorporated, everything is spot on. I under-whipped my whipped cream a little because as we're doing the folding and kind of agitating, we're re-whipping, and we don't want to get it too stiff to a point where it's going to break inside the mousse. So there is dark chocolate mousse. It's there for you to enjoy. It's delicious. And like I said, it's a filling, it's an icing, it's a dessert. There's so much you can do with it, and it's a wonderful recipe, so enjoy. There, that's it.